Wow. I didn't say this. Nancy Pelosi said it. Let's play it again. Let's play it one more time. See, it's real short.
One of the biggest criticisms of the process has been the speed at which the House Democrats are moving. If this is, but seriously though, seriously.
It's been going on for 22 months, okay? 2.5 years, actually.
There has been some criticism, though, I will say, about whether or not you should move forward before the end of the year or wait for the courts. Why do you think now is the time to move?
Well, I think we're not moving with speed. This, was it 2.5 years ago that they initiated the Mueller investigation?
Wow. Nancy Pelosi said that they've been trying to impeach the president for 22 months. She said this is an ongoing process. And then they go back and they went back and said, well, wait a minute. She was talking about the Mueller investigation. What was the Mueller investigation about? It was about trying to prove collusion between the Trump campaign, the Trump administration, and Russia. That's what she said. They're trying to blow smoke up our behind now and says, well, no, she was talking about the Mueller report, which took No. She was talking about trying to bring down this president for the last 22 months using Robert Mueller and the Mueller report, as they call it, to come up with the smoking gun, to come up with treason, bribery, high crimes and misdemeanors, none of which appeared. You know, I wonder how many people, and my play sister broached this the other night, who is a independent who's become a staunch conservative. I can't say she was a Democrat, but she's a staunch independent who's become a staunch conservative. She said, how many people could put up with the kind of scrutiny, the kind of detail, the kind of investigations that Donald Trump has been under? How many families could hold up under that kind of scrutiny, under the kind of criticism? You know, she's a psychiatrist, so she always points out that Donald Trump has excellent relationships with his kids. None of his kids are in drug rehab. None of his kids are not functioning in his company. All his kids are achievers. Hello, all his ex-wives love him. I tell you, I met Marla Maples. God, she is so beautiful. Now, from the pictures, Ivanka's gorgeous. His daughter, she's absolutely gorgeous, drop dead gorgeous. But the current wife, Melania looks like she is just gorgeous. I've never been close to her in public, but I plan to meet them at the White House here shortly. But I can tell you, the president's a lucky man. He's had some good-looking women in his life. But when you have money, you know, the women come, dude. So for you young guys out there, become an investment banker. You want a good-looking wife, a great girlfriend? Hey, make sure you become an investment banker. Now, there's been a lot going on. You know, they've often said that how the British election goes, I'm segueing now, how the British election goes and how the Brexit vote goes is some insight into how the election will go here in America. And they said they're close parallels. And so everyone was calling the election close in Britain. You know, it's close. The Remainers and the Brexit, the election is close. I kept saying, no, it's not close. In fact, I have a bet with a friend of mine named Fari Hamza. He's one of the top traders in the world. And he and I have a small wager. And he's saying, well, Charles, let's just see. I told him all the time that Brexit was going to happen. So when the first election happened and the British people elected to leave, Fari said, no, they're not going to leave, Charles. The government will not let them leave. I said, but the government doesn't vote. The people want to leave and the people are leaving. So Fari kept saying, well, you know, it's the economy, it's Wall Street, it's the markets. And I said, the markets don't drive at the average people. Average people are not concerned about what's going on in the markets, nor are they going to allow companies to direct them. That's not going to happen. So he said, "Oh no, 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 Charles. The companies and the government are not going to let the Britain leave the EU because of the trade agreements and the economy." I said, "Hey, man, Britain is out of there. The Brits are out. Believe me, the Brits are out of the EU. They're not going to have open borders. They're not going to tolerate Brussels giving them direction. They want their government to come from 10 Downing Street." So last night, Boris Johnson got a majority win. And I'm looking at these returns, right? I'm looking at BBC News, and I can say this about their reporters on BBC News. They're very they were reporters. They were just reporting the facts. They weren't crying and like Rachel Maddow. Oh my God. And then when we looked at the election shows 2016, and you had all of these people on CNN and MSNBC. They stole the election. ABC, NBC, CBS. Donald Trump stole the election. The Russians stole the election. That's what they were saying. And I'm thinking, how in the heck did the Russians hack our voting systems? Did the Russians hacked our Diebold, Soros-controlled voting machines? We need to go back to paper ballots. Switching to digital voting was one of the worst things we could have ever done. Because if those machines get hacked, the people will lose control of their government. Hello? But Boris Yeltsin, he came on and he gave an excellent, in my opinion, an excellent acceptance speech in front of 10 Downing. And this is what he had to say. Let's listen.
Good afternoon. This morning I went to Buckingham Palace and I am forming a new government. And on Monday, MPs will arrive at Westminster to form a new parliament. And I'm proud to say that members of our new One Nation government, a people's government, will set out from constituencies that have never returned a Conservative MP for 100 years. And yes, they will have an overwhelming mandate from this election to get Brexit done, and we will honour that mandate by January the 31st. And so in this moment of national resolution, I want to speak directly to those who made it possible, and to all those who voted for us for the first time, and those whose pencils may have wavered over the ballot, and who heard the voices of their parents and their grandparents whispering anxiously in their ears. I say thank you for the trust you have placed in us and in me, and we will work round the clock to repay your trust and to deliver on your priorities with a parliament that works for you. And then I want to speak also to those who did not vote for us or for me, and who wanted and perhaps still want to remain in the EU. And I want you to know that we in this One Nation Conservative government will never ignore your good and positive feelings of warmth and sympathy towards the other nations of Europe. Because now is the moment, precisely as we leave the EU, to let those natural feelings find renewed expression in building a new partnership, which is one of the great projects for next year. And as we work together with the EU as friends and sovereign equals in tackling climate change and terrorism, in building academic and scientific cooperation, redoubling our trading relationship, I frankly urge everyone on either side of what are, after 3.5 years, after all, an increasingly arid argument, I urge everyone to find closure and to let the healing begin. Because I believe, in fact I know, because I've heard it loud and clear from every corner of the country, that the overwhelming priority of the British people now is that we should focus above all on the NHS. That simple and beautiful idea that represents the best of our country. with the biggest ever cash boost, 50,000 more nurses, 40 new hospitals, as well as providing better schools, safer streets. And in the next few weeks and months, we will be bringing forward proposals to transform this country with better infrastructure, better education, better technology. And if you ask yourselves, what is this new government going to do? What is he going to do with his extraordinary majority? I will tell you that is what we are going to do. We are going to unite and level up. Unite and level up, bringing together the whole of this incredible United Kingdom, England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, together, taking us forward, unleashing the potential of the whole country, delivering opportunity across the entire nation. And since I know that after 5 weeks, frankly, of electioneering, this country deserves a break from wrangling, a break from politics, and a permanent break from talking about Brexit. I want everyone to go about their Christmas preparations happy and secure in the knowledge that here in this people's government, the work is now being stepped up to make 2020 a year of prosperity and growth and hope, and to deliver a parliament that works for the people. Thank you all very much, and happy Christmas.
What could not have been a better speech? You know, he was gracious. You know, he was purposeful. He said, hey, you know, I heard what you want, British people. And those of you who didn't want what the majority of us wanted, we're going to bring you into the fold too. We're going to welcome you too. And we're tired of the bickering. Let's go into the Christmas season with the Christmas spirit. And let's work together. Great message. But he can't do that with Corbyn. Jeffrey Corbyn is a radical. Jeffrey Corbyn is like Sotomayor on the Supreme Court. And in the Congress, Corbyn is like AOC and the posse, the gang, the staff, whatever they want to call themselves. They're radical. They're radical. But you know what? Corbyn is gone. They're going to have a new labor leader, and they're going to move forward. And they will have a trade agreement with the U.S. So you'll have the largest economy, thanks to Donald Trump, the world's largest #1 economy, and the world's #5 economy coming together to work closer together. Thank God. Let's cut China out. Let's cut out the goods from China and the people who are manufacturing in China. Let's cut them off. Because those are and were American companies and American goods that are in China coming here. I am not about building up communist China. Maybe I should start my car remotely, kind of preaching this nationalist slick. But that's the way I feel. That's the way I've always felt. So Boris won last night. The conservatives won last night. And tying this all the way full circle back together. As the liberals said going into the election last night, as the Democrats said going to how the British people vote, that will be an indication of where America is going in the fall of 2020. Well, if it is, it meets my prediction of a landslide for President Donald Trump. A landslide for President Donald Trump. I'm just tying these things together. I'm just saying. Just saying. I'm just saying. So look, let's keep our eyes on what's going on in Britain. Let's keep our eyes on what happens next year for Boris Johnson. He's asked the Queen to form a new government, and he said Monday he'll be forming a new government with Parliament, and they'll move forward. Thank God. Thank God. Now, let's see here. The roll call. I want to quickly go through the summary of the roll call and Nader and his 23-17 votes thing going on here. Let's listen to the final roll call for the first article. Let's play it.
Every member voted who wishes to vote.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask how I'm recorded?
How was
Mr.
the gentleman recorded?
Mr. Gomer, you are recorded as no.
Now I want to make sure.
The clerk will report.
Mr. Chairman, there are 23 ayes and 17 noes.
The article is agreed to. The question now is on Article 2 of the resolution, impeaching President Donald J. Trump for obstructing Congress. The clerk will call the roll.
Wow. So that was the first article, and they decided on that. So it was, for me, it was a sad day, impeaching the president, calling for impeachment of the president when he hasn't done anything wrong. But again, they did the same thing on the second article. And you have to ask yourself, when is enough enough? When is enough enough? When is enough enough? So I'm going to play the second article and the second roll call. And let's play that. Here we go.
Is every member of the committee who wishes to vote voted? Clerk will report.
Mr. Chairman, there are 23 ayes and 17 noes.
The article is agreed to. The resolution as amended is ordered reported favorably to the House. Members will have 2 days to submit views. The resolution will be reported as a single amendment in the nature of a substitute. Without objection, staff is authorized to make technical and conforming changes. Without objection, the committee is adjourned.
Mr. Chairman,
For
pursuant
what purpose does the gentleman seek recognition?
to Clause 2L of Rule 11, I give notice of intent to file dissenting views.
Notice is heard. Without objection, the committee is adjourned.
That's it. Committee adjourned.
Every member of the committee who
Committee adjourned. President, they're going to take it to the vote for the full House. You're going to get a couple of defections from a few Democrats. They said 2 Democrats, probably be 3 or 4. That's my projection. So it's going to be interesting. President Trump will do what President Trump does. He's going to keep tweeting, and he's going to take some people off, and he's going to make some people laugh like me, because there's nothing going to happen. This is going to go to the Senate, and the Senate's going to wrap this up, and they're going to exonerate the president. They're not going to just dismiss it. They're going to erase it like it never happened in history. Boy, I tell you, you can't make this stuff up, people. Can't make this stuff up. So I don't know. It just, it shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't happen. This impeachment, it makes me angry because, I have been saying since day one, there are 4 things that you can impeach a president for. 4 things: bribery, treason, high crimes, and misdemeanor. Al Green had been saying from day one, since the president was elected, we have to impeach the president because we can't beat him in an election. We have to impeach the president. Nancy Pelosi said to Al Green, we're not going to bring your resolution to the floor. So she held his resolution off the floor for almost 2 years. I mean, Nancy's a smart girl. She's been around for a while. Like she told that reporter, hey, we've been at this for 22 months, So she's a smart girl. She knows what she's doing. And then you had Maxine Waters, bad wig Maxine, running around saying, impeach 45. We go impeach 45. Embarrassment. I often say that Al Green should have his law degree revoked by Texas Southern, which is an HBCU. He's obviously flunked his constitutional law class, or he was taught, obviously, some type of Stalinist doctrine. And Maxine doesn't have a law degree, to my knowledge, at least last time I checked. Okay. So the president, in talking about all of this, the president, he seemed upbeat. He seemed gregarious. He seemed combative. He seemed ready for a fight. And this is what he had to say about the impeachment.
No, we had it in pretty good form. I said, do me a favor, start buying agriculture. And they started. If you look, I mean, they're already buying. Even before the deal is signed, they're buying.
Mr. President.
Well, we're with the people of Venezuela 100%. It's so important to us. And we're going to be discussing Venezuela today. It'll be a big subject.
Mr. President, do you prefer a short process in the Senate or a more extended process?
Well, I've heard Lindsey Graham, who's terrific, and I heard his statement, and I like that. And I'll do whatever I want. Look, we did nothing wrong. So I'll do long or short. I've heard Mitch, I've heard Lindsey. I think they are very much on agreement on some concept. I'll do whatever they want to do. It doesn't matter. I wouldn't mind a long process because I'd like to see the whistleblower, who's a fraud. The whistleblower wrote a false report. And I really blew it up when I released the transcript of the call. And then Schiff gets up and I blew him up too, because he went up in front of Congress and he made a statement about what I said that was totally false.
I said that yesterday. I said that day before yesterday. I said that when Schiff came from his committee, told numerous lies on the president, and then he said, wait a minute, it was a parody. No, he tried to quote the president. He said the president said. He didn't say this is a parody. He didn't say I thought the president said or the president meant. He tried to quote, and the president didn't say any such thing. I have the transcript right here in front of me. None of what Schiff said in that so-called parody is in this transcript. Like the president said, I blew him up. Man, I blew him up when I released the transcript. I was so happy that he released the transcript because it took all the wind out of their sails. Now watch how the president breaks it down about the whistleblower and the second whistleblower. Listen to this.
And then a long time after he made it, when he got caught, he said, that was parody. Now, Schiff is a crooked, he's a corrupt politician and a disgrace. And because of the fact he's in Congress, he's got immunity, so you can't do anything. But he went up there, you know that, he made a totally false statement. The whistleblower wrote a totally false statement. So it's a fraud. Then I say, where is the informer, the one that informed the whistleblower? You had an informer. He disappeared. You know why he disappeared? Because I released the transcript. Had I not released that transcript, we would have had an informer. We would have had another whistleblower. By the way, where's the second whistleblower? Remember that? We have a second whistleblower. We have breaking news. Look, not all of it, but much of the media is corrupt. These are bad people, they're sick people, and they're corrupt. And we're fighting the Democrats, and we're fighting a lot of the corrupt media. But I asked the corrupt media, where's the second whistleblower? Now, had I not had a transcript, I'm lucky we had this transcript, which, by the way, has now been verified by the lieutenant colonel.
The lieutenant colonel. He's talking about Lieutenant Colonel Vindman. I think he's a Soviet plant. Here is a guy who came here when he's 3 years old from the Ukraine, half of a twin brother component here. I mean, the guy is totally fake. He's no hero. He got wounded. Just because you have a Purple Heart does not mean you did anything heroic to get a Purple Heart. If he'd gotten the Bronze Star or Silver Star, Congressional Medal of Honor, that's a hero. He just did his duty. He just, he got a piece of shrapnel somewhere. So what? He's not wearing a half a leg or a false leg or a false arm. So yeah, he got a little scratch. But hey, what can you say? You can't make this stuff up. You can't make this stuff up. So let's go back and let the president finish what he was saying about the impeachment and about the verification of the transcript, because they came out and said, well, the transcript really hasn't been there. Everything's not in the transcript that should be in the transcript. And I know well, guess what? All these people heard heard about the conversation third party. Vindman said he was on the call and he was concerned. But you know what? I'm more concerned that the Ukrainian government would offer a lieutenant commander the Minister of Defense job in the Ukraine. That's what I'm concerned about. And this is supposed to be serious. Now, you know, Ukraine is one of the most corrupt countries and government on the face of the earth. And they would offer a man who's sitting on the National Security Council the job as defense minister. He's a he's a mid-level officer, lieutenant colonel. Hey, man, I don't know. But they tried to make a big deal out of his testimony in the House. It got blown up. So, let's go. Yes.
Lieutenant colonel, okay? He's another beauty. So where is all of the stuff that was going to happen? Once I released it, and I released it quickly. But once I released it, all of a sudden, the second whistleblower disappeared. The first whistleblower, who was all set to testify, all of a sudden, he becomes this saint-like figure that they don't need him anymore. The one that everybody wanted to see, including Schiff, was the whistleblower. Once I released the text of what happened, the transcript, that was the end. Everybody disappeared. So now there's no informer. There's no second whistleblower. Everybody's gone. And by the way, a guy like Sundlun, nobody ever says it. He said very strongly that I said, I want nothing and no quid pro quo. Nobody says that. That's what he said. He said it in Congress. Nobody ever says that. So look, we're dealing with a lot of corrupt people. There was nothing done wrong. To use the power of impeachment on this nonsense is an embarrassment to this country.
It is an embarrassment to the country, an embarrassment to the American people. That's certainly how I feel. And, even Mr. Barr, Attorney General Barr, said it's a travesty. There's no basis for it. So when the IG report comes out, Horowitz tries to take it easy initially. He tries to take it easy on the career bureaucrats. But the second day, when he was put under pressure and direct questioning, he had to break and say, there was no basis for the FBI to pursue an investigation into the Trump campaign. So let's hear from Barr himself. This is the other day. This is really good.
Alternatives. And I think when you step back here and say, what was this all based on? It's not sufficient. Remember, there was and never has been any evidence of collusion. And yet this campaign and the president's administration has been dominated by this investigation into what turns out to be completely baseless.
Well, of course, it doesn't turn out that way at the beginning. At the start.
So let's look at look at what the basis of it was. So in May 2016, apparently a 28-year-old campaign volunteer says in a social setting.
This is George
Papadopoulos. And this was described by the foreign official who heard him as who couldn't remember exactly.
This was a foreign official. This was the Australian guy who overheard George Papadopoulos in a restaurant talking about he may be able to get dirt from Russia for the Trump campaign. God. But why? My thing is, why is Papadopoulos even talking? He's trying to be important. He's trying to sound important. Well, you know what it did was it ended up costing Papadopoulos quite a bit of money in attorney's fees. It also ended up costing Papadopoulos a couple of days in jail. Hey, all because he was talking at lunch. He was overheard at lunch trying to sound like he was important. Yeah, the Russians called us. They contacted us. We may be able to get some dirt on Hillary for the Trump campaign. Yeah, the Trump man trying to sound important. He lost a lot of money real quick. because he had to lawyer up. They were after his butt. They say loose lips sink ships. That was a saying during World War II, and that's a saying in the defense industry. And that was a big thing during the Cold War. Loose lips sink ships. And what it meant was not necessarily that ships were going to be sank in the Atlantic or Pacific, but that revealing information, talking about information that could damage national security, just to sum up everything, is harmful. And bottom line is George Papadopoulos thought that he was sounding important, and he got caught up in way more than he ever intended or ever thought he would. He's a low-level guy, got busted. But Barr was very clear. There's no basis to start the investigation. Barr also points out in this interview that the FBI went to the head of the CIA, what's his name? Clapper, Brennan, I think it was Brennan. Brennan went to the head of the Russian intelligence operation and said, we want you to stop doing what you're doing. We know what you're doing. We know you're interfering, and we want you to stop. All they're doing is running ads and stuff. So who cares? Really? It is what it is. Ads money and ads and campaign don't win campaigns. It's all about reaching the people. It's about touching the people. Donald Trump, I think, spent 1/10 of what Hillary Clinton spent, and he trashed her. He killed her. And he's going to have money this time around, and he's going to crush Hillary, anybody who runs against him, whether it's Hillary, Joe Biden, and Hillary's trying to get back in the race from what I understand. So we'll see. But let's listen to Barr, and then I'm going to segue into Eric Holder.
What was said, but it was characterized as a suggestion of a suggestion. He suggested that there had been a suggestion from the Russians that they had some adverse information to Hillary, which they might dump in the campaign. Well, what was going on in May? You may recall that we were in the thick of the investigation of Hillary Clinton's secret server, and the media was full of stories, and the blogosphere was full of stories, and political circles in Washington were full of stories and speculation that the Russians had in 2014, 2 years before, hacked into her secret server and were therefore in a position to drop this stuff during the election. In fact, the day before this comment was made in a bar, Fox News was reporting that their sources told them there was a debate going on in the Russian government as to whether or not to drop the Hillary Clinton's emails between the intelligence agency and the foreign ministry. But that related to Hillary's server. So the FBI, what the FBI did is later, after the DNC hack and the dumping through Wikipedia in July.
WikiLeaks,
in July, they get this information that this somewhat vague statement was made in a bar.
Yep. So that was it, a vague statement. And we get all this pushback. And we spent the last 22 months getting to the impeachment of a sitting president. It's just incredible to me. Incredible and heartbreaking. But look, let's talk a little bit about Eric Holder. When you talk about heartbreaking, when you talk about embarrassing, here's a man who really got a number of his promotions under Republican administrations. Now, he ended up serving as the Deputy Attorney General, or I think Assistant Attorney General under Janet Reno, under Bill Clinton. He probably should have been the Attorney General. But Bill Clinton gave it to a white woman from Miami who really screwed things up. Remember Waco? That was all Janet Reno. Went in and bombed those people, killed those innocent people. was a better way to handle that than she did. But anyway, typical incompetent person that's appointed because she's a Democrat. So anyway, Eric was, her second in command, and he took a little heat, but he survived, as Janet did too. So Eric Holder writes an op-ed a couple of days ago in the Washington Post. That's where he lives, in Washington area. And it starts out like this. Eric H. Holder Jr., a Democrat, was the Attorney General from 2009 to 2015. Now, Eric Holder Jr. is from Barbados. He thinks that he's better than any other Black American in the world. He's told several lies. That one, he grew up in the Bronx, but he claims he doesn't know anything about Black people or Blackness. He's a Bayesian. That's what he said. So I would say in Barack's first cabinet, he had no Black Americans in his cabinet. And I would always play Eric Holder's little clip. However, okay, so let's get into this because we're running out of time. Eric Holder says, as former U.S. Attorney General, I'm reluctant to publicly criticize my successors. I respect the office and understand how tough the job can be. That's not true. Eric Holder has consistently criticized his successors. He criticized Gates, and he praised Gates, who was the acting AG. Then there was another guy, I can't remember his name. I think it was Widner or something like that. He was acting attorney general until Sessions came in. Sessions came in, and Eric Holder went berserk in his criticism of Jeff Sessions and his closeness to Donald Trump. So he said, but recently, he goes to the next paragraph, but recently Attorney General William P. Barr made a series of public statements and taken action so blatantly, plainly ideological and so nakedly partisan and so deeply inappropriate for America's chief enforcement official that they demand a response from someone who held the same office. I mean, really? Eric Holder, you're the only attorney general in the history of the country that's been held in the contempt of Congress for withholding information and obstruction of justice. So don't talk about how great you were, Eric. You were not a good attorney general. Remember, you didn't get to the bottom of, and you were part of the Fast and Furious deal where you and Barack Obama were going to flood criminal gangs with guns from America so that you could try to confiscate all our guns, saying that guns are bad and that assault weapons are getting into the hands of the cartels and bad people, but you were putting them in the hands of bad people. Fast and Furious. And you wouldn't come to the table and talk about it. You wouldn't fess up to getting that border agent murdered with one of your guns, because you and Barack Obama and ilk were trying to take Americans' guns. Hello. But again, you're the executive branch and you're trying to act like the legislative branch making law. Eric goes on to say, last month at a Federal Society event, the Attorney General delivered an ode to essentially unbridled executive power, dismissing the authority of the executive and judicial branches and the checks and balances at the heart of America's constitutional order. As others have pointed out, Barr's argument rests on a flawed view of U.S. history. To me, his attempts to vilify the president's critics sounded more like tactics of an unscrupulous criminal defense lawyer than a U.S. Attorney General. Well, let me say this about that. Who could be any more partisan? Who could be any more ideological? Who could be any more in the pocket of their president than a man who stands up in front of cameras and says, and I quote, "I'm still the president's wingman. I'm there with my boy." He said that in April of 2013. I didn't say this. Eric Holder said it. End of quote. Eric Holder said it, not me. This is the guy who said, I'm the president's attorney. I'm the president's wingman. No, you are the attorney general for the United States of America and you represent the people. But You pushed the president's agenda, Benghazi, Hillary's emails. It was all you, baby. Hello. So Eric goes on to say, when in the same speech, Barr accuses the other side of systemic shredding of norms and undermining the rule of law, he exposed himself to a partisan actor and not an impartial law enforcement official. Even more troubling and telling was later a little notice section of his remarks in which Barr made the outlandish suggestion that Congress cannot entrust anyone but the president himself to execute the law. Well, Eric, you're the attorney general. What is the president's one role by the Constitution? His sole role in the Constitution is one thing: enforce the law. See, the president can't make laws. He can ask for a law. He can sign a law, and he can veto a law. Those are the three things the president can do. President can't make an economy. President can't go out and hire people. The president's role is very well defined in the Constitution. His job is to enforce, the president's job is to enforce the law, Eric. So Barr is absolutely right. Barack Obama made law, DACA. Made law with his pen and paper. You didn't say a word about that, did you, Eric? Because you're a good boy. You're his wingman. You were Barack's wingman. We're zooming along. Hello. Okay. So in Barr's view, says Eric Holder, in Barr's view, sharing executive power with anyone beyond the control of the president, presumably including a semi-independent cabinet member, contravenes the framers' clear intent to vest the power in a single person. This is a stunning declaration, not merely of ideology, but of loyalty to the president and his interests. It is also revealing of Barr's own intent, not to serve a careful remove and be removed from politics as his office demands, but an instrument of politics under direct control of President Trump, like you were under control of President Obama. What's wrong with that? See, these guys think they can do whatever they want to do, but you better not do it. So to me, remember when I was saying yesterday that Hank Johnson used the phrase pot calling the kettle black? Hate to say this, but this is Eric Holder attempt at pot calling the kettle black. Because Eric Holder did more than what William Barr has done thus far. And Holder is claiming that Barr is unfit to serve as the attorney general of the country. I didn't say it. That's what old boy said, Eric Holder. You can't make this stuff up, people. So I'm going to go into the second page real quick. And Holder says, not long after Barr made that speech, he issued what seemed to be a bizarre threat to anyone who expresses insufficient respect for law enforcement, suggesting that if these communities don't give that support and respect, they might find themselves without police protection that they need. No one who understands, let alone truly respects, the impartial administration of justice or the role of law enforcement could ever say such a thing. It is antithetical to the most basic tenets of equality and justice. It undermines the need for understanding between law enforcement and certain communities and flies in the face of everything that the Justice Department stands for. Well, in saying that, I say this to Barr's defense. I am tired of Black communities and brown communities disrespecting law enforcement officials. White communities do the same thing. So let's be clear. It's not just a racial thing here, but it gets pointed out more because of police abuse in Black and brown communities. But there are plenty of white people who disrespect cops. It just goes unreported because it's not racial. And they get beat down, just like the Black people and brown people do. But people need to respect law enforcement. Law enforcement can't always be right, but our justice system is right. So that's where we have to go. You cannot beat a cop on the street. You have to beat cops in the courtroom. So that's your goal, to get to the courtroom, not to get your butt beat on the street for being disrespectful, to being an a-hole. That does not work with cops on the street. Okay. Holder goes on to say, it is also particularly ironic in light of the Attorney General's comments this week, in which he attacked the FBI and the Justice Department Office of the Inspector General, two vital components of his own department. Having spent time in the majority of my career in public service, I've found it extraordinary to watch the nation's chief law enforcement official claim, without offering any evidence, that the FBI acted in bad faith. Well, he did have evidence. He's talked about the evidence and the lack of basis for the FBI's investigation time and time again when it opened an inquiry into the then candidate Donald Trump's campaign. William Barr knows exactly what he's talking about and what he's doing. He's not talking from the cuff. He's not shooting from the hip like Eric Holder often did. I remember when Eric Holder was asked if he had read the law on a voter ID. And it's like 10 or 11 pages. And he said no. But he's on TV trying to defend. He's on TV trying to castigate it and overturn it. But they asked him if he'd read the law. He said no. I'd read the law. But he hadn't. So anyway. The Attorney General Holder goes on to say in his letter, and I'm going to cut through some of this. When appropriate and justified, it is the Attorney General's duty to support the Justice Department's components, ensure their integrity, and insulate them from political pressures. His or her ultimate loyalty is not to the president personally or even the executive branch, but to the people and the Constitution of the United States. How can Holder say that when he said, hey, I'm your wingman, Barack? He constantly covered up for Barack. He constantly went with the president. He constantly went against the people of the United States of America. And he certainly violated tenets of the Constitution. Holder goes on to say that in his op-ed piece, career public servants at every level of the Justice Department understand this, as do leaders of the FBI, such as FBI Director Christopher Wray and Inspector General Michael Horowitz. Their fidelity to the law and their conduct under pressure are a credit to them and their institutions that they serve. He also goes on to say that others like Durham are being tested by this moment. Oh, well, Durham is going to come out with a bad report. It's going to be scathing for all of those involved, including Way and Comey, two directors of the FBI. He goes on to say, I've been proud to know John for at least a decade, and I was troubled by his unusual statement disputing the Inspector General's finding. Well, guess what? You may be troubled, but he's just going to tell the truth, because you just said that he's a good prosecutor and that in investigator, and he's going to get to the truth. That's what you said about John Durham, not me. He says, good reputations are hard won in the legal profession, and they are fragile. Anyone in Durham's shoes would do well to remember that. See, he's trying to threaten. You either you come out with the right conclusion, against Donald Trump, or you will be tarnished. And he says, in dealing with this administration, many reputations have been irrevocably lost. But lost to who? Lost to whom? Lost to liberals? Lost to these cocktail parties? I don't think so. This is certainly true of Barr, who has until recently been widely respected as a lawyer. I have many other justice veterans who are hopeful he would serve as a responsible steward of the department and a protector of the rule of law. Well, he is. He's just not going to protect what you guys are doing. He's not going to protect your rule of law. He's not going to protect the way that you try to do business. That's what Barr has done. That's what William P. Barr has done. So virtually, Holder goes on to say, virtually since he took office, though, Barr's words and actions have been fundamentally inconsistent with his duty to the Constitution, which is why I fear now that his conduct running political interference for an increasingly lawless president will wreak lasting damage. Lawless? How can he claim law? He's making these statements without any evidence. Eric Holder making statements without any evidence of lawlessness by a president. Then his last paragraph is this: the American people deserve an attorney general who serves their interests. Well, you didn't serve our interests, Eric Holder. I want you to know that. Your stance on guns, terrorists that you defended and tried to get out of Gitmo. You tried to put in place policing actions in war zones, which allowed combatants to come back and fight another day and kill our boys and girls in the battlefield. I have no respect for you, Eric Holder. None at all. He goes on and says, leads a Justice Department with integrity that can be entrusted to pursue the facts and the law, even and especially when they are politically inconvenient and inconsistent with the personal interests of the president who appointed him. William Barr has proved he is capable of serving as such an attorney general. He is unfit to lead the Justice Department. Barr has proved he is incapable of serving as such an attorney. You know, I think Eric is looking in the mirror and talking about himself. But look, we're about to go. So I want you to have a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, all that good stuff. And we will see you Monday right here on Red State Talk Radio. Think about some of the things we talked about today because they're important. Okay. Take care. Okay. Have a good one. We're out of here.